Dodd-Frank and the Volcker Rule by Steve Aprillano. Here are some of the questions we're going to be answering today. What is the Volcker Rule by definition? What is proprietary trading? And what is a covered fund? And most importantly, what are the spillovers and externalities associated with these? So what is the Volcker Rule? Volcker, referring to Paul Volcker, the Fed chairman from 1979 to 1987. The Volcker Rule is Section 619 of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. It states that it prohibits banks from conducting certain investment activities with their own accounts and limits their ownership and relationship with hedge funds and private equity funds, also called covered funds. Breaking this down further, the section that says prohibits banks from conducting certain investment activities with their own accounts is limiting the use of proprietary trading, and the section that states and limits their ownership of and relationship with hedge funds and private equity funds is limiting the investment in covered funds. So what is proprietary or prop trading anyways? Proprietary trading is when a bank uses the money you or I put on deposit and trades with it. Many times, the banks will put this money in very speculative or risky investments to gain a large return on their capital. But what does any of that even mean? This is a risky investment, a mortgage-backed security, for example. The bank puts all the money that it has on deposit into these risky investments across all different asset classes. But sometimes they lose money on the investment, giving the bank less capital instead of their original goal of creating more. The negative spillover of this is when Tom goes to the bank to get money for his groceries that week, he might not be able to take them out because the bank lost his money on a speculative investment. Now this example is quite extreme, but we could see something like this happening on a very large scale if all of these investments were to go down in value at the same time. All of the banks have so much intertwined exposure to them that this could cause large-scale bank runs. Looking at some of the worst effects of a large-scale financial crisis, where all asset classes lose value, we can see bailouts being the answer. The problem with this arises when taxpayers are the ones responsible, which doesn't make anyone happy except the banks. So now, onto the second part of the Volcker Rule. What is a covered fund? A covered fund is a hedge fund, private equity fund, and numerous other types of privately offered funds and pooled investment vehicles. So what is a pooled investment? A pooled investment is when multiple investors, usually hundreds of thousands, put their money into a large grouping of other investor money. Investors do this because it reduces transaction costs as well as giving them diversity within their portfolio, along with the fact that a manager will invest their money for them. A manager usually being a very smart guy like this, Carl Icahn. The diversity comes from the fact that you personally cannot allocate to every single asset. But in a pooled investment fund, your contribution may go to oil, and another investors may go to stocks, and another's to bonds. But no matter how well oil does, you get the average return of all three. So what's the issue with a bank's investment in covered funds? A bank could disguise a proprietary trading operation as a covered fund and still run into the same problems that prop trading carries along with it. So what have we learned today? Banks want to rule the world. No, they would never admit that. That the Volcker Rule is a preventative measure from issues such as the 2008 financial crisis. It reduces a bank's risk so the everyday person doesn't feel the effects. And we know it's not perfect, but it's done a pretty good job thus far of presenting disaster.